my colleagues, Elliot and Virginia.
Hi.
We work at the National Center for Atmospheric Research in the High Performance Computing Lab. And so we're here to talk to you a little bit today about why NCAR has a high performance computing lab and what it might look like if you had any interest in coming to work at NCAR in our computing arena. So let's see if this part works. All right, cool. So the National Center for Atmospheric Research is an organization that was created by a bunch of university atmospheric research departments that realized that they were all duplicating the same research. They said, well, I'm doing exactly this thing, but this is the same thing as what this guy over here is doing. We should probably be collaborating on this and making sure that we're all having our research go in one direction rather than being duplicative or having people going all over the place and things like that. And so they formed this coalition of university atmospheric research departments to direct atmospheric research across the country. And so we are it's called a federally funded research and development center. So we receive about 80% of our funding from the federal government, which has been a little interesting with the shutdown. But we're still going strong, and maybe the shutdown's ending today, so
Really?
maybe. Hopefully that gets a little less stressful soon. But there are three basic pillars of NCAR that we work toward on a regular basis, and that is service toward the community, making sure that we are serving our university partners and giving them resources and sharing those resources, again, to direct all of the atmospheric research in one direction. We also obviously do a lot of research. We are primarily a research lab. And then education. We do a lot of outreach at NCAR. We have exhibit halls in a couple different locations that you can come visit and learn about our atmospheric research. We have groups like ours who go out and do talks and presentations and work with school groups and things like that. It's really important to us that we're not only doing this really cool research and serving the university community, but also telling everybody else about why we do what we do and why it's cool and why they might be interested in getting involved with it at some point in their future. So here, just a pretty picture of our NCAR building, which you may have visited on field trips. I know we get a lot of school groups up. We're also a trailhead, so sometimes people think of us just as a trailhead. But there's a lot of really cool research that happens in that beautiful building. So parallel computing. Do you know what parallel computing is? No? No? Cool. So parallel computing is when you take multiple computers and have them work together so that they work faster. So if you can imagine, if you were to have one computer working on a problem and another computer working on a problem, if they tackle different parts of that problem, then you're making more progress than if you just had one computer grinding on that same problem, right? So the example that we always give is, have you ever mowed a large lawn or a field? Do you know how slow that is when you're just one person pushing a mower? It's kind of the same with computers, right? So you can have one mower chugging along, or you can have a couple different ones that can go a lot faster, right? Also, I encourage you to Google multiple mowers on YouTube. There's all sorts of bizarre stuff on there, ways that people have thought of to try to mow their lawns faster. This was just the prettiest one that I could find. But in climate research, we use this parallelization to speed up what we are able to produce with our climate research, right? So we're taking these massive data sets from satellites, from ground radar, and we are pulling that together into these huge models that just have incredible amounts of data. And if you were to just, again, have one computer trying to crunch all of that data, it would take forever. So instead, what we do is we have parallelized computers. This is actually a scale model of our current supercomputer, which is named Cheyenne. This row is, like if you were to cut this room in half and put it end to end, it's about that long. These are taller than me. They're about 7 feet tall. They're huge, and they're just packed with processing nodes, right? So if you can imagine how many computers that is that are all working toward one problem or on different So some of the cool things that we do with this is part of our machine every day, every minute, is dedicated to running forecasts for Antarctica. And that's really important to the scientists who are in Antarctica because their weather obviously is really variable, and they're dependent on like helicopters flying in materials or ships making it through the ice. And they need to know what the weather is so that they can keep people alive in Antarctica. And so we actually have one part of our computer that literally is dedicated to Antarctic weather.
Up in Boulder.
Huh?
Up in Boulder.
So this computer is actually located just outside Cheyenne, Wyoming. Yeah. So
Okay.
that's a great segue. Thanks.
Glad I could help.
So the Cheyenne supercomputer is located just outside Cheyenne, Wyoming. We put it up there because, for one thing, Wyoming had some really great infrastructure for us. They had some extremely high, fast internet that was already there that we were able to use. As you can imagine, this many computers all working at the same time crunches a lot of data, pulls a lot of internet. So they already had some of that infrastructure for us, but we were also able to make use of the weather in Wyoming. Have you ever been to Wyoming? Yeah? No? A little bit? Wyoming's really windy. And so one of the things that we're able to do is to actually use the wind in Wyoming to cool our computer. We also use external tubes our computers heat water inside of the building. Those tubes run outside. Some of them run out underneath our parking lot and thaw the ice off the parking lot, which is pretty cool. Other ones run out to a tower and they cool in the tower before coming back into the building. So because of just the way that Wyoming weather works, we're able to run our supercomputer more efficiently and cheaper by using the weather that's around us to help support the supercomputing efforts. So you can visit the NWSC. We have tours, drop-in tours every Friday if you're interested. If you're ever up in Cheyenne with your family, you're more than welcome to stop by. It's a very, very cool facility. You can actually go and walk around the supercomputer with the tour guide and they'll tell you all about the cool things that make it run, like the heat going out and things like that. So highly recommend that if you're at all interested. So we have the supercomputer up in Wyoming, which is where the actual operational facility is, and then we also have a lot of people who are doing research and who are managing the jobs and things that run on the supercomputer, who are all here in Boulder. So as far as positions, the kinds of things that you might see that you might want to get into if you're interested in coming to work with us, some of these things are things that you have everywhere, right? Like web developers. Some of the things that we have, we've recently had some really high-level network admins who are working on the networking inside of the computer. We have folks who are responsible for the facility itself. And so understanding how the networks connect from the facility to super high-speed internet that runs, and making sure that that's all working so that we can do our research. There's all sorts of really cool ways that you can come and work with this data. There are also lots of people who just run experiments on the machines, right? So if you are someone who ends up doing research on really just about anything, you can do that on the supercomputer. We have people who are looking at, using our supercomputer, we have people who look at wind, we have people who look at fire, we have people who look at the atmosphere, the sun, and that's on our computer. We also have people who look at the human impacts of all of these things, and they use high-performance computing to crunch massive amounts of data about population and how weather interacts with population. So pretty much anything that you're interested in as far as climate or atmospheric research, you might be able to do on Cheyenne. If you're interested in other kinds of giant data, you probably would end up using a different supercomputer, but they're all very cool fields. So some of the skills that you would need to do this. For us at NCAR, we generally hire people who have at minimum an associate's, usually a bachelor's. And within that, you know, these are kind of general, like functional, like you need to be able to do most of these things to have just about any job, right? Like you need to be able to troubleshoot, you need to be able to communicate with people, stuff like that. Specific to computer science, we have people who work with all of these things in the lab. So we don't expect anybody to be experts in all of those things, because that would be amazing, and we'd hire you in a second, but, we have positions that come open that use all of these different things. So if any of those are things that you're interested in or that you think are exciting, you might wanna keep an eye out on some of the positions that we have open up here.
I can still do Fortran.
You can still do Fortran, that's great.
Probably, yeah.
We actually have, a member of our staff is on the International Fortran Standards Board.
Really?
Yes, and we do have interns who do Fortran projects almost every summer. So, if you're bored next summer, you're welcome to come up.
Yeah, it's IT for Jeffco, but it's just like IT everywhere. It is go, 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 go. It never slows down.
Yep. So far as things for students, because obviously you probably have a little bit of education to go until you'll be ready to accept a full-time position with us. We do have some student intern positions. Every summer we have about 15 interns that come work with us up at NCAR. We're in the hiring process for that for this year. That's for open for undergrads and graduate students. We do occasionally have high school aged student interns that come up and work with our scientists. So if there's something that you're really interested in, or you find that you're really passionate about what we're talking about today, we may be able to connect you with someone that you might be able to come up and be a student assistant or an intern. And then once you get much further in your education, we also have postdoctoral positions as well as visitor programs. Those are usually established researchers who are working with our scientists who come in and work with us in some way.
Can I interject something?
Yeah.
Real quick? So, one of the things I've learned over time is you'll look at a job somewhere at some point, whether it's this or who knows what, right? And you'll see the job requirements. It never hurts to ask. If it's something that you really, really want, whether or not you meet every single requirement, like she was just saying, because when I look at this on the web, right, and we talked a little bit, right, it's typically college level internships.
Yep.
Like she just said, there's something you're super passionate about, you express that passion to the right person, they might just say yes. Never hurts to ask. Worst thing you can say is no.
Actually, one of the best applications that I've read for our internship this year is from a student who was dual enrolled in college while he was finishing up his high school years. We usually say that students need to be sophomores before they have the skills to be able to take one of our internships, but this student had been taking college courses his junior and senior year of high school, and he was only a freshman. He was more qualified than most of the applications that I had read. And it was really exciting to see a student like that, because you know that he's super gung-ho about it, right? He is excited about what we are doing, and so having somebody like that around, we love that. That's super exciting for us. So if you're interested, come play with us. We would love to have you. So we brought you some toys today. Obviously we have the very cool mini Cheyenne, which Elliot will tell you about. We call it Pie-N because it is a miniature Cheyenne and it is full of raspberry pies. And so Elliot will be able to walk you through a little bit of a tutorial on what the machine is, what he does with it, talk to you a little bit about the weather research forecasting model, which is what we have running on these raspberry pies. We also have something called Medio AR, which is an augmented reality app that displays our data sets on a globe that pops up on an iPad or a phone. And so that's super fun to play with. We have like a global warming globe that you can look and pick your favorite spot on the globe and see how hot it's going to get by 2035 or something like that. It's very fun. And then we also have something called HBC TV, and HBC TV is a microsite that displays information about Cheyenne in semi-real time. So within the last 24 hours, what projects have been running on Cheyenne? How many days has it been running? How many jobs has it run in its lifetime? All of that kind of cool stuff. So we have all of those things for you to play with the remaining time that we have today. Do you have any questions before we start getting into the fun stuff?
So how do you guys connect to the internet? Is it through the Bison Ring or?
It is through the Bison Ring, yep.
We're on the Bison Ring here.
Are you?
We actually host some school mines. We're the connection to the Bison Ring for mines, for us. N-Rail's on the Bison Ring, I think. I assume
I
it
think
is.
so, yeah.
And we run some of the, like I said, some of mine stuff on the radio centers too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it comes right in this building.
Oh, cool, that's
So,
awesome, yeah, so
yeah.
the fiber optic network that it's all connected to comes through here.
Yeah, there's this network that runs, I'll probably
It's
get it
from like
wrong.
down here all the way up to Cheyenne and Laramie.
Yeah, it goes from like here through Denver, up to Cheyenne, over to Laramie, and back down a different route. I think it hits Colorado State,
Mm-hmm.
goes through Boulder, obviously.
Yep.
And I think we're about as far south as it goes.
I think so, yep.
But yeah, a lot of the research institutions and schools, colleges, Jeffcon, are on the Bison Ring. I think Denver Public Schools is on it. I'm not sure who else. So we're virtually just a hop, skip, and a jump away.
Yeah.
Literally.
Using the same network.